Here we are, bottom of the Smash Mountain. I would like to thank all my patron supporters over at patreon.com/bsmpod for continuing to support me in what I'm doing. Extra big shout outs to my senior producers. We have Ventus Official, PK Smokey, shout outs to Eternal Project, and also my mom and dad. Love y'all. Thank you for supporting me. I would also like to welcome all those in chat who are watching live as we're doing this with JDMH. Excuse me, Panda JDMH, Panda JD. We have someone here who has done all kinds of projects where you ultimately look at something within PG Stats, especially for the graphics related stuff, and you go, wow, this is a sick graphic. And guess what? JD friggin' made it. So JD, this is not the first time you've joined me on the podcast. You found me very early on, but it's been a while, and I'm really happy to have you back. Thank you so much for making the time.
It's been too long, frankly. How long now? It's like a year and a half now.
Yeah, you're very kind.
It's been a while.
You have been very busy, and of course I didn't want to constantly pester you to go, JD, it's just so fun having you on. Come back on again. I mean, even if you wanted me to say that, you've been so busy. I remember, first of all, this is what comes to mind right away when I think about you, is I think about the Panda controller reveal, right, where it splits into a million pieces. One of my favorite shots I think I've ever seen in a Melee related thing ever, and that was all you, right?
Yeah, that was the funny thing about that was, so I had most of the rest of the trailer done, and we done a couple revisions of like showcase some of the individual parts, put some extra text here or whatever, and it was at the point where I was like, I need something extra here. I need to like go a little above and beyond, because at that point it was like a little bland. Like, it looked nice, but it was just like another tech reveal, and so I was like, I need to do something, and at that point I had been given the models from hardware and like necessity for coloring the controller. I had to like make a file so that the merchandise team could like color the controller, so I had to break it up into all the different pieces by necessity, and so it was all there and I wasn't doing anything with it, and so I went, what if I just like took all of it and it like worked out great. And I'm very, very proud of that shot, and I appreciate it.
So you've obviously gotten to work on other parts of all the different PG Stats projects as well, also the Melee Top 100 All Time, and now what has come out the past couple of days, including today, all the graphics related things, especially the player cards for the new summer 2022, however you want to phrase it, Melee Top 50. And
early 2022 PGR is what we like to call it.
Oh yes, is it the pre-GR? I love that, by the way. I was just
that's a different thing.
I know, but I still want to call everything the pre-GR because it's very fun for me to say. I'm sorry, even if it's not correct.
No, I
love it.
Yeah, that was great. So what happened with that was we have Keith, Cytonic on Twitter now, I think it is. He is our main graphic designer and leads our graphic design team. And so the actual design of the player cards themselves, like where the text goes and what the text looks like and how the images are lined up, that's him, right? And you have the stills on the article that like the one that everyone sees with all the pictures. Those are him. And my job was basically take those, animate them, animate the background, and then do all the fancy stuff in between, like transitions and stuff, which I'm very proud of. But the actual main player cards themselves were Keith.
Ah, gotcha. They turned out really nicely, though. I mean, okay, what's it like working within a team? You're the person who did a lot of this stuff. You were sort of honing your craft, if you will, just by doing stuff on stream at your locals, and you would do all these kind of different things with, like, you know, broadcasting on the stream or with overlays or transitions, and then you were starting to do all kinds of stuff within Blender. I want to say Blender. It's Blender,
yes,
right?
That's the software.
Right,
yeah.
That's the one. And getting really excited about getting you know, the GeForce RTX 3090 or whatever. It was just like doing all kinds of stuff. You were sort of building and building. And I remember when you were starting to latch onto Panda, when you were more or less employed by Panda in a more official role to actually start doing things. And I thought, well, this is perfect. JD's already done so many amazing things. That just means you're going to be able to do even more cool stuff. But the one of the new things to learn, other than technical prowess, working within a team, maybe you've already had a fair amount of quote unquote teamwork experience, but within the realm of an official job where everybody says our job is to do stuff within video games and esports, this is really cool. But what has been the fun part and or the challenging part about it?
So it's great having people to like collaborate on that are super devoted to the craft, right? So if I have ideas about like what I think would be cool, I can put it into the PG Stats like Discord or whatever with all the team in it. Like I'll get instant feedback. Sometimes not instant, maybe it'll be like a day or two later, but like I'll get feedback on all of my ideas. And I'm very something I'm really happy about is that I'm like I have a lot of creative control in what I want to do. The team trusts me a lot, and that feels great to see. So like with the styling of the PGR this time around, with the purple and the holograms and the particles and stuff, the very futuristic look. I came up with that very early into the season's development. I think beginning of this year. And we started off with really small stuff. I put together a mood board. I put together stuff, and the team was basically just like, "Yeah, I like this idea. We can run with that." Other projects ended up getting in the way, so we didn't like end up fully like visualizing what we wanted. There was a lot of stuff that we just couldn't do at the time. But having that creative freedom to like make what I wanted was great. It's fantastic. And that also happened with the top 100 all time. Top 100 all time was like that. The trailer I made for that like wasn't a request of me. I just ended up making it. We ended up posting it, and then I continued. And then we continued that like design style into the PGR this year. We don't know if we want to keep it. I think it looks nice, and I'm glad that we were able to like transition a theme into the new season. But yeah, having a lot of creative freedom is great. Some of the drawbacks, the turnarounds are pretty fast, just like across the board. That's esports. That's how it goes. You don't have a ton of time to do a ton of things. The team size itself is pretty good. We were able to get done what we wanted to get done, and that was great. But there's always just like that thing in the back of your head that's just like, we could have done a little bit more. Like this little bit could have been polished.
Right.
I mean,
sure.
you know how it goes. But it's across the board. It's great. I have a lot of creative freedom, and with a lot of great people that I super respect. It's really good.
I don't even know who to specifically thank other than Radar for allowing me to make a video for the Gen Assist stream when I really just had a concept and a rough script made at the time that he approved it, and I had only made one other quote-unquote polished, not polished by the way, made that with both of those videos with a laptop, but the Genesis top 10 all-time moments, I remember making it going, this is a train wreck. I should have like given myself more time on this, and I did give a good amount of time. It took 20 hours to fumble, and I do mean that, fumble out a video. And it gave me a lot more respect for people like you, JD, because podcasting, look, there's parts of it that are easy to do, in my opinion. Yeah. I think that the creative process happens now, but the video editing, you just crop the ends of it, basically. So when I all of a sudden had to step up a lot more in the regards to editing and figuring out how to make Shotcut, which is a very basic program, try to do anything fancy or good looking, I was just going, So again, big shout outs, big kudos to you and the whole team for continuing to, because PG Stats, the YouTube channel, growing very well. The website looks amazing. Great. So that's the whole thing, right? At the cost of being like, we can't spend more time on it. Consistency, which the Zoomers and the rest of the internet, I mean, I think we all appreciate being able to wake up every morning and go, oh, wow, there's a new one already. Well, this is great. You are reminded that you as PG Stats exists, the YouTube channel or the whatever, this, that, and the third. So I would say for me as the casual onlooker, if you will, I'm just going through and I'm like, this is all great. This is cool. Awesome. Yeah. So JD, I know you have a big part of that. So congratulations on on the growth so far that's been happening across the board over at Panda, over at PG Stats.
I appreciate it. I would like to say though, I'm not as big in the day to day as I used to be when I originally got brought on. The big people that can be thanked for that are Bobby Wasabi and Jackie Peanuts. Those two have been doing incredible work carrying the day to day, writing scripts and editing. They've been doing an incredible job, and I don't like to take credit for that because they've been doing so great. I've moved on to the bigger PG Stats projects, and then the promo for the bigger Panda stuff. And then we have the bigger PG Stats stuff, like individual player documentaries that I work on. But the day to day is all them.
Gotcha. So there's player documentaries. All right. Oh wait, sorry. I've seen some of these already. There's just a lot of them are made for Ultimate. Oops. Yeah. Sorry. It's been a while since I saw that Mango one anyway, but dang it. Most of them are made about Ultimate players, are they not? Am I? Yeah.
No, they are. Those do the big numbers.
They do. It's true. I'm not dogging on, okay? I promise I'm not trying to insult Ultimate. Just a little bit, but I do appreciate big ups to that. Actually, you know what? You're the perfect person to ask since you've been working on most of those videos or have a more included role, a higher role, more responsibilities with the player documentaries. For me, I wouldn't be so interested. I'd go, oh, Ultimate. Okay, fine. What's your thought on it? What do you enjoy about Ultimate specifically?
There are a lot of characters both in the game and that play the game, and so there's this player Sean, a Captain Falcon player, who has been living in his car for however many months, traveling across the entire United States, just beating everyone at every single local across the United States, and that's an incredible story, and we did a video on it and it did really well, and there's just so many stories like that because you think about how the Melee scene was in 2005, right? With 17-year-old chillin' running a tournament, and then all these kids coming from around the United States. That's happening again with Ultimate, but now we have all these methods of making things and showing things at all times, and so you get a lot more of that. It was only just discovered recently that Forward did the same exact thing in 2006, where he traveled across the United States, but no one ever heard about it because at that point it was just you heard that on Smashboards and it disappeared. But now there's all of these things are happening again and more, but now there's it's immediately out there and it's all great to see.
Yeah, because obviously in 2005, no iPhones, no smartphones, and you wouldn't be able to have a big social media page like a Twitter to post to. Smashboard's super fun, but nowadays everything's just sort of out there and we're all living on the internet. I mean, the fair amount of us were also living on the internet back in the day, but now it's everybody, even adults, quote unquote adults, are also living on the internet. It just took a while for them to find out, oh my gosh, people do cooking shows on YouTube. This is awesome.
Yeah.
I don't have to watch the Cooking Network anymore or whatever. And that's really cool to hear about, Sean. Good luck to Sean for finding more success at all these locals. It reminds me of the couch surfing kind of thing that some of those old school Melee players used to do. I'm not just Mewtwo King or Forward, but I think PC Chris for a little while was just people seem to really like hosting me and I like going to all these places, and for a while he just sort of was I'm a Melee player. I don't hold down a regular job or anything. I just go and play tournaments, and Ken did that for a while with Isaiah as well when they teamed up. So it's really cool that Ultimate has a little bit of the grassroots feel, because from my own observation, I know there's much more presence for Ultimate for the big events where Genesis has more Ultimate entrants, or SmashCon. That's happening this weekend. Definitely. That's one of the biggest tournaments ever for Smash, if I recall correctly. So
number 4, I think, right now.
They are out there. All these Ultimate players. They're helping to keep Melee alive, even if they don't want to admit it, because they are the ones who kind of justify getting all these big fancy venues, and then we get to show up and be like, wow, this is great. What if it was just Melee? Would it be thousands and thousands of people? Probably not. Maybe not. Maybe we wouldn't get the nice big convention center kind of a thing. So shout outs to the Ultimate community. So I'm interested in hearing about some of the tournaments you've gone to this year. You've gone to a bunch, and Evo was one of them, and that happened this past weekend. I'd love to hear about that, or any of the tournaments you've gone to this year, because I'm not even sure which all you have gone to. I'd love to hear stories or things that are coming to mind.
I need to take a second to actually think about it. Beginning of the year.
Omicron, so we didn't really have anything
Yeah.
until Genesis 8 in April.
Genesis, yeah, that's right. So I did Genesis, and that was great. That was fantastic. Best after party in the history of Smash Brothers. Shout out Guildhouse. And then I did Smash Camp. That's not true. What order was it? I did Smash Camp in March. Smash Camp in March.
Mhm.
Genesis in April.
Right.
Combo Breaker in May. June, July off. And then when I went to Evo, that's also not true. I had CEO.
I was about to say, yeah.
Because I thought about this. I went to Combo Breaker, CEO, and Evo this year. I don't play a lot of fighting games, but I know enough. But it is crazy to think that I hit the big three without like actually being a dedicated fighting game player. Specifically, Evo was great. I had to unpack. So I had a lot of my camera stuff, and I had to like set up this setup with my laptop and things. So I brought in all my stuff. So I still have my media badge right here.
Nice.
That. And then I have my COVID wristband right here.
Nice.
I didn't end up buying anything. I didn't end up getting a jersey though. I just got thrown a jersey on Saturday, and they were like, "This is yours now." I'm also wearing the baseball thing here that I got at CEO is when we launched that.
Very nice.
Alongside the varsity jacket, which I have way over there.
Oh, you have a varsity jacket. Yeah, that one looks really cool.
Yeah, and so these events are great. Most of them, let me think. Yeah, so we did CEO, which was on Panda Cup, and that was our whole thing. And so basically what it was me staying Wednesday to Monday, nothing but working. And that was great. Legitimately great. I got to sit backstage with the group of PG Stats people, PG Stats dev team, which were working on the overlays, and then I had Bobby next to me, and then I had Tish, my boss, big man, across from me, and he was walking all over. He was helping do socials. And then I had Doughboy. Do you know Doughboy?
I do not.
Oh, he's a broadcaster, big Metroid fan, helps with a lot of stuff. He runs our Bamboo Battle streams every Monday, and he's a great guy. Surprised you haven't met him. You seem like you guys would be homies, but he's great. And then I also had, I'm going to feel bad if I leave out anyone. I had Darren, Leland, and Nick. I'm naming Darren, Leland, and Nick, who are dev team. They were great. And so we all sat in a corner, just doing stuff for Panda Cup. And that was fantastic. CEO had some of the best backstage coffee I've ever had.
In Florida.
I'm gonna blame my recently refound caffeine addiction to that amazing CEO coffee. I think I had like 5 cups a day. It was some insane number. That coffee was great. But because I just had to like, they were like 6 ounces per cup.
That's crazy.
Like
okay, 6 ounces is not a lot for those of you. That's probably the average gamer amount of water that we drink. It's true.
But yeah, CEO is great. I ended up doing the top 8 intro for that. If anyone's seen that,
very nice.
You can we have it on the Panda Cup Twitter somewhere. It's like a thank you post with Melee top 8 on the bottom. You can find it. I think I did great. I stayed up way too late working on it, but I think it ended up as a great product. And so it was mostly that. Yeah, I don't think so. I did go to Genesis. Genesis was great.
Right.
That was a very Smash oriented thing, but I think I've over the last 8 months I've played a total of like 5 games, like 5 individual games at a tournament, every single tournament combined. I don't think I've actually sat down and played with a controller a lot. But I do have a lot of fun. Yeah, it's been a lot, and I have a couple more to the rest of the year.
When I was at Pound and I met Wheat, I was curious afterwards, now that I knew what he looked like with a mask on, you know, that kind of thing, where you meet people in person. And shout outs to Wheat. I'm referring to Wheat from Melee Stats, all that fun stuff. For those of you who somehow did not know, but what I'm getting at is that when you see somebody with a mask in person, now you know what they look like. So I was curious if I would see Wheat playing Melee at some point over the weekend. Sadly, I did not. And I am curious for people who are not me, because I'm someone who doesn't play a ton of Melee either, even though I really like playing Melee. It's also tough to play Melee here on the computer, not sitting next to somebody. I found that I still very much prefer playing with people in person. So I also then say, okay, well, I don't actually have as much time as I think I do to actually go to people's places or to whatever. We're having IRL Melee in Lancaster very soon that I will be trying to go as much as I can, but otherwise not playing a lot of Melee. You talking about just now how you don't play a lot or hardly any, even while at a tournament, that makes me feel better, because that was sort of me at Pound. I did play some and it was fun, but I was also playing on a controller that I wasn't super happy with, just a stock GCC. It probably sucked. If somebody professional held it, they would tell me why, but I just knew it was bad, like intuitively. Something was wrong with it. I'm using a box now, so super happy with that, but I just was mostly just trying to like see all the sights of what a major was like at Pound. So when you go to something like Evo, JD, you know that Smash is not going to be as much of a thing. Sure, Leffen will be there. Also, shout outs to Jade and Contra, you know, running a bajillion brackets. Let's go. You have those connections, but otherwise the games themselves are not there. So what were your expectations going into it?
So with Rick being recently appointed to GM, Tio of Combo Breaker previously led the team at Twitch Rivals. Incredible guy. He got appointed to the GM of Evo, and then the brand image just flipped overnight because everyone loves that man. And his original thesis was simple, was to just make Evo incredible. And then that's what he did, right? Sony bought it out alongside RTS. Pokimane was at Evo. I didn't end up catching her, but I know a couple people did, and that was fun. But yeah, the floor was fantastic. It was massive. It was the biggest tournament I have ever been to, and maybe the biggest just in square footage tournament ever. It was massive. So think about Genesis. The size of Genesis. Genesis was a massive tournament.
Big one.
Evo was about twice the size of Genesis.
That's crazy.
And they filled out the space very well. It was incredible. There were booths everywhere. Every single publisher you can think of was there. Sony had a massive booth.
Oh wait, not every developer. Yeah. Not every developer.
I mean. Capcom had a giant thing. Street Fighter 6 was there. PlayStation was doing a broadcast there. Their PlayStation Experience, I think it is. It was incredible. It was massive. All the stages were gorgeous. There were screens everywhere. You could walk halfway across the venue and still see. So they had their TO help desk in one of the main venues was a giant Evo like logo with 3 different projectors and screens all around it on the ceiling. And so you could walk anywhere in the main venue and look up and see whatever stream was happening elsewhere. And that was insane.
Smart. Or futuristic. Something. Yeah. That's a great idea. If well executed, sound like it was.
It was fantastic. And then there was, Friday and Saturday were great. And then Sunday at the Michelob Ultra Arena inside Mandalay Bay. Massive, huge, just insanely large. Their setup, their stage setup was incredible. Everything ran mostly on time, as much as you can hope for. It was a fantastic spectator experience. It was a fantastic media experience. I am not the best to say from a consumer spectator experience or like competitor experience, because I was at most times on Sunday 10 feet away from the stage, so it's like I don't have the greatest spectator experience. But it was a great show all around. And Evo was just a fantastic time. And so free water. Evo's we got fine. We got a free water bottle, and there was
Ooh.
free water.
Ooh.
You could just get anywhere at the venue, which is an insane thing.
Yeah.
And I hope they keep doing it. I
This is
forgot my
this
water
is something
bottle
that
at
Pound
Evo.
failed to do. No free water bottles at Pound.
Yeah.
Just I'm
But
looking
it's
at.
expensive. That's the thing. And we were also in Las Vegas. Like, that's very expensive. And so Sony or Pokimane probably just wrote the check off for that.
Right.
I ended up forgetting my water bottle at Evo. So I don't have that. But it was good. They were pretty large. It was great.
We're talking 1.5 liters, perhaps large.
Probably.
Sorry, I'm laughing only because, again, at Pound, you'd think it'd be the simplest thing. Just buy a pallet of water, and then if it runs out, but at least you could say you tried. Poor Pound. I did have a good time at Pound overall, but I recognized there were some shortcomings for it being my first super major. There was like, first major. Excuse me. My first super major will be this fall. You're going to Big House, right?
Yes, it's like an hour away from me.
I will meet you there in person. This is exciting.
Nice.
Woo. Very nice. Okay, so I'm getting ahead of myself though. Do you want to transition into talking about the top 50 for Melee of did you say early 2022?
Yes. Yeah. It's
Top
supposed to be
50.
spring. It was originally, all the internal documents say spring PGR, but then it's like, we're getting in August now. It's like, you know.
It's tough because you needed to have an actual sizable chunk of data to work off of, and with the variants of Omicron and all that stuff with COVID, didn't really get started in earnest until March at the very earliest. So it makes sense. But then you get all these chunks of data, and what do we discover several tournaments in after the first blitz of tournaments? Because I think it was Genesis into Pound into, I want to say, Low Tide City or something. It was like ridiculous, back to back to back, and we are starting to find out, wow, Mango and Plup finishing outside of top 8 for Genesis. IBDW misses out on top 8 at Pound. Low Tide City, just all of a sudden people start dropping out. So that's like getting clustered around. And so between players missing out on placings that would be quote unquote the right spot for them of how you would think, even if you were not paying attention super hard in 2021 or even in 2020, you would have at least seen that Zane and Mango were pretty competitive at high profile events for those 2 years going into 2022. And it's been a different look. And then JMOOC came out of nowhere as well for a lot of people. Now, JD, you and I knew about JMOOC, but not everybody did. So this has been I have no jealousy for people who do top 50 rankings or top 100 rankings. That does not sound fun to me because of the amount of people who have opinions about it afterwards. And you go, that's great. Thanks for sharing your opinion. Yeah. And you try not to care, but then people say mean things about you, and I assume that gets under your skin. And then the players, of course, their self-worth is at least partially invested in what the number says next to their name, and that's a big thing too. So all of that aside, we get to a top 50 at long last. Ever since 2019, Melee hasn't had an official, other than the blur rank and the pre-GR, there has not been the official rankings, and finally we have top 50. So I'm interested in hearing from you, JD. You haven't necessarily been able to tune into a ton of Melee events, watch them all the way through because you're a very busy person, but who did you think was ultimately most deserving of top 10, or did you think that somebody deserved to get onto the list but then their name's not there at all and you're like, what the heck, why is this person not at least ranked 49? Like, what are your impressions of the Melee top 50 overall?
At the end of the day, I think that the top 50 is like about right. I mean, we both, like, we lurk in the Melee stats Discord, like we know what all the panelists are thinking. We know like what the general vibe is. Like, we knew Kadorn was going to be like top 10. We knew that Mango was falling off, and we knew that like JMOOC was incredible. And then you have stuff like Sunsei and Zuppy and like Logan and those and like JFlex and those players that are like further down, but it's like those players are also like, in my mind, expected to be there. I'm not like surprised by any of the list. I think the I guess after Mango finished ninth at Genesis, I was kind of like, yeah, that's it's a surprising bracket run at the end of the day. But after that, I'm like, if another one of these happens, Mango's just like not going to be top 10.
Yeah.
Uh,
Which is what happened at Pound the very next week.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, it's like not super surprising to me. But then I have my ear to the ground a lot. Like I don't get to watch tournaments all the way through, but I do check. I do sleuth the Discord. I do check Twitter afterwards. Probably not for the best, but I do.
Poor JD. You took a Twitter break a little bit this year, right, didn't you?
Yes. That's a whole other subject. We announced the Panda Cup, and then I kept checking Twitter, and I just didn't want to see any of it. That's a whole different thing. I'm kind of having that again with the PGR, with just players being like, "I'm so mad. We need algorithms," even though algorithms would tell me the same thing. Whatever.
I can't believe that my average placing of top, 17th at majors. I can't believe my average placing of 17th means that I'm not top 10 or top 15. Sorry, it's just like, what do you want me to do? Everybody's got opinions. By the way, don't top players get a vote in these MPGRs? Do they not?
Some of them do. I know. So this is listed on the PG Stats website.
Indeed.
But they do keep it a little hidden so they don't people don't draw suspicion. Like I don't want to. I know Pipsqueak is on the board. I think Aura is on the board. I need to check the list so I don't get this wrong.
Well, okay. What do you think about players having a vote in general, without even being specific? You can generalize it as compared to calling out Aura for throwing the whole thing off. But by the way, shout outs to Aura for being super sick in doubles and also winning some regional out there in the PNW area in the past couple months.
Cutting out on my end. Hold on.
Just trying to remember what the event was, but now I can't remember it anymore. Sorry, Aura, but I watched that double peach run with you and Ryobi, and that was super sick.
I don't actually remember if they're on the panelist board or not. Either way, you cut out for me for a bit there. That was basically like, what do you think about players being on the panelist board?
Yes.
I think that there are enough panelists that if someone were to sabotage and be like, actually, I'm 15th when they should really be 35th, that didn't happen. These players are all very good about sending in their rankings, and at the end of the day, there's a lot of panelists, and so everything gets equaled out. And they all, I think they all just want the best list possible. There's no sabotage happening anywhere in any of these lists. There's no reason to.
Yeah, why don't we work from the top down? Let's not try to bury the lead. So we have Zane here at rank number 1, and a big part of that is winning Genesis 8, where a lot of the players who are on the MPGR top 50 were present and accounted for. It's hard to get every single player or vast majority of top players at one single event, and for the COVID world that we're still in, there's an unwritten rule slowly forming in my mind where back-to-back events, like weekend-to-weekend events, are starting to become a little taboo. Don't try to do that because you could be potentially spreading. You don't even know that you yourself are infected yet, that kind of a thing. And what a lot of players have started to experience is they're able to get out to 3 events back to back to back. Oh, this is awesome. Well, I'm just so run down and feel really sick. And maybe it isn't even COVID, but it's really challenging. Traveling is a nightmare. And you would know this better than me because I drove to Pound. I didn't even fly. I just drove and stayed overnight at a hotel. But it just takes a lot. And then when you can have an event like Genesis where a lot of those players are accounted for, and who comes out with a dominant winning from Winterside Grands, without dropping a set, Zane, facing the challenges and adversity in his bracket and being able to come out on top says so much to his skill. And even if there are shaky losses where you don't want to see Zane lose to Slug, but it happens, or even lose to somebody like Lod, and it happens, but that you still have a first at Genesis 8, you still have a first at Pound 2022, Battle BC4 finishing second. That's what's on the card, by the way, for those who are following along. And then again, not dropping to like 17th place at all at any of the events that Zane attended. That totally makes sense to me. I think that there is a slight illusion of what have you done for me lately, but I still feel, and obviously the panelists all agree with me, I thought Zane's got to still be number one here, and I'm excited to see what the second half of the year looks like for Zane. And I guess that starts with SmashCon this weekend. It's just that Jmook, Mango, Leffen, and who's the other player that I'm thinking of or players like Slug, I guess, but Axe is going to be there and Lod's going to be there, and both of those players have beaten Zane. So maybe Zane will get to play one of those and say, kick your ass, and now I get to be ranked number one for realsies, or however you want to phrase it. But I love that. I also love the fact that, sorry, skip IBDW, second best player in the world, blah, blah, blah. I love the fact that Jmook debuts at 3, highest placing ever for a non-top 100 ranked player, which obviously would not have been true if we had a top 100 or top 50 last year, but you get it. Jmook debuting at number 3. Wow. Only 3 for the first appearance on a list like this is the coolest thing. This is the reason why Melee's super fun this year to me, is that when Jmook goes to an event, you just assume Jmook's going to be top 8, probably top 5, probably top 3, and that's awesome. That's so cool. I like the fact that Hungrybox or Mango might miss out on top 5 or even top 8, but Jmook has been my like the comfort food of my Melee viewing experience, because I just know in my heart he's going to go the distance at some point, but at the very least he's going to go very far in bracket. So for your top 3 or your top 10, who's your favorite player that you're seeing here?
I really do like Jmook 3. I need to look at the list again, actually. Hold on.
You're fine.
I did all of the cards for them, and I doing the animated cards was sort of like a zone out and finish it process, right? Where I had the spreadsheet and I just needed to get it done, and so I just did it without like really thinking who was specifically on the list. Let me pull up PG Stats, and you the viewers at home could do this as well.
Yes.
PGstats.com.
Mm-hmm.
And then you'll get sent to the homepage, and then right up there you'll see MPGR top 10, and you'll want to click that, and that'll be what you need. PGstats.com also featuring data for all of your Start GG tournaments, featuring Super Smash Bros. Melee, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, and now Guilty Gear Strive. This website's taking so long to load on my phone.
By the way, don't look up my stats on PG Stats. That's just
mine either.
Don't
frankly
bother. There's like probably a 100% red set loss there. I did have a set win technically in a few brackets, but I mean that's like specifically against one player, I think. So let's just not even worry about that. Don't look me up. It's Cypher003. Do not look that up.
I have my answer now. AMSA at 6 is great to see. I'm very happy about that. And if Fate counted, it'd probably be even higher. I think AMSA is like has been incredible at the game for so long, and I think he will only get better, which is crazy to say.
I wanted AMSA higher, but I also understand why. I mean, because without winning one of these events, it's hard to go much higher than AMSA already has. And Jmook has the privilege of not winning an event that's super big, but also being really high on the list, because again, not really dropping below 5th at any of the events that he attended, which is insane. So that's why Jmook gets to be there, and AMSA unfortunately falling a little bit short of what I was kind of hoping to see. But I'm not going to get mad, because like you, I believe this is a matter of time with this year being a possibility in my mind. Even still, there are just a surprisingly high amount of events that you can go to. It's not just SmashCon this month. It's also Shine, and then in September we have Riptide, then we have the Big House, and there's another summit at some point, and obviously the Panda Cup finals and the Smash World Tour finals, and then there's an event in South Korea that I hope that enough players go to, that AMSA also goes to. That would be super cool to see AMSA win an event. Even obviously at Fate, like you said, that'll count in the next in the next bunch, but there were probably less than a desirable amount of top talent showing up, right? So hopefully AMSA will just so happen to beat players like Zane and IBDW and Leffen on the way to winning an event of a certain size at some point this year. We'll see. But there are more events to look forward to, obviously. So when we're talking about all these things, and I forget about things like Fate or even Phantom did not count for the rankings, which IBDW won, and a lot of people said if that was counted, then is IBDW number one? That's something to consider as well. Will IBDW truly challenge Zane? But here's an interesting storyline. IBDW may or may not have to take a long break from Melee depending on the hand injury that he's currently going through. So how much is that going to factor into his performance the rest of the year? Because you have to imagine that if it takes him a month to return or more, that I don't want to say rust. It's just that how, to be clear, top Melee players have to play so much, have to play many, many hours a day, and then attend regularly enough to events to have the tournament stamina to be able to play Melee for 12 hours on and off all day on Saturday, and then play it again for 4 or 5 hours of top 8 and do a sick losers run. This is not easy stuff. You can't just take a break, quote unquote, and then come back and win an event unless you're Wizro beating Meds at Smash Factor 9, which is also just like totally crazy. A player who will probably finish top 10 if he gets enough top 8 finishes between now and the end of the year, that being Wizro. Super cool concept there as well. And then I want to give a shout out to Laud for finishing at 8 for this early 2022 MPGR, because we probably won't see Laud again on the final list, the top 100 list at the end of the year, unless she shows up to a few events between now and then, SmashCon being one of them. But since he's a literal doctor in the same way that Swedish is, who also big shout outs, that's really hard to be able to do the full-time 80 hours a week career and then also go to Smash tournaments. So for all the stuff that Laud has to do, when he was able to attend a lot of events, finishing at 8 out of everybody else in the world, I love that. That's super cool.
Another one I'm really happy about is Joshman, and I think 15, right?
Yes.
That's great. I wish he was higher, but like it makes sense. Love that man. He's great. He's an incredible player. I wish Phantom counted.
A few things, a few events that was like, Pound would have been a great event if he were able to go a little bit farther in bracket, because 17th, like you have to put that on the card and you're like, or Battle of BC didn't quite work out. But then at Gommel just flipped a switch, and also we saw some codes on the screen and everybody was going and Boki was ready to fold after that like shutdown sort of thing. When the stream crashed a little bit, the game crashed a little bit, it was unfortunate, but Joshman being able to take advantage of that and run all the way to 4th place finish, beating IBDW as well, as I recall, at that event at Gommel. I mean, I would have loved to see 1 or 2 more of those performances, but it's tough. You have to spend 6+ months in the United States just to be able to have a shot at having results like this. And so Joshman did a lot of great performances. Even if 15 is probably not the highest he would have wanted to name for himself, but like you said, still turned out really, really nicely. And then to round out top 20, I was surprised to see Slug here, only because I thought he didn't attend a lot of events, and silly me, he finished 9th at Genesis 8. Lost to 2 Peaches or something, as I recall. It was ridiculously bad bracket luck. Like, did not get a spacey in losers when it mattered most, if I recall correctly. But that's super cool anyway, even if I was surprised to see Slug finish on the list in general, because I didn't think he attended enough events. Like, I hope to see more out of Slug for the rest of the year.
Another one was KJH, but like he didn't attend enough. Like, he's incredible and he beat Hungrybox, but it's like he just didn't go to enough things.
Right. And then let's see, who else do we have? Okay, so I was talking about this with Etost. Etost showed me his ballot for top 50 and all that stuff, and we both agreed that it was going to be tough for anybody to look at Axe and rank him in top 20. And I I asked Etost, who is outside of top 20 right now that can get back in? And aside from the obvious answer being Wizrow, because activity, I said Axe is a name because Axe could top 8 a couple of events and then have a good argument for being top 20 if those top 8 finishes also coincide with evening some of the head-to-head matchups that are not in his favor right now. Those kind of things will turn it around enough that it's feasibly possible. But of course, the Etost had a good point. Axe plays Pikachu, so that's the challenge. That character is quickly falling off, and the reason why Swift is ranked higher, shout outs to Swift, Swift has good results with Pikachu. Not going to say that he specifically depends on Fox to get out of any bad matchups, but you do sort of need to have a pocket character like a Fox, for instance, that Swift is able to deploy very well, finishing higher than Axe is at 26 to Axe's 29th finish on the MPGR this year. That is the interesting thing to me. I think that Axe can do it, but you gotta see it. So I guess it starts with SmashCon. I think Axe is at SmashCon. Oh yeah, I was watching the combo contest, the 64 combo contest, and he was on the judges panel, so he's there. I hope to see Axe finish top 8. I don't think that's too wild to say for SmashCon, but we shall see.
Another player I feel like can get there is Pipsqueak.
Yes,
I think it was 24.
Yeah.
He has the same thing as Joshman, where it's just really hard when you're in a region where you dominate other people, and then you need to go to America to get the results that you need. I think he's top 20. I think he's top 15 when he's feeling it. I don't want to see that Falcon, but the Falcon's really good. And so it's he can, when he's here, he does great. He won Low Tide, right? And it's he's good. He's very good. It's just there's not enough of those results because he wasn't in America for a long enough period of time. And I don't know if that'll change with the finishing of this year. Hopefully it does. I just don't know.
And then to get into the coulda, woulda, shoulda, I couldn't name you somebody who should have finished in top 50. I couldn't name you somebody who I would say, oh, that person obviously deserves to. There's not an obvious answer. I think, like you said, the list of people who are here deserve to be here. They put in the results to be in top 50. But I want to give shout outs to B-Bats for winning events like Creed to be able to finish in top 50.
That's another one. Mm-hmm. If fate counted.
Yeah, finishing fourth, right?
Yeah. Yep. If fate counted, they would have been ranked.
But you love to see a younger-ish player. I'm not saying that the rest of these players are 30, but I'm saying that B-Bats is young enough that in 10 years will be close to my age. So let's not, that's the unfortunate thing.
Yeah.
And then I want to see Ben do better than 39th. Not that 39th is an awful finish, but there were some events where Ben just, Chew. Why did it have to be Ben that Chew counterpicked Luigi on, And then the controller issues, that this is a scenario where if Ben is able to put things together more, could finish close to top 20 if able to put all of it together. I feel that Ben can get there, but it's going to be hard to do from going, making a jump from 39th, having to put in some serious results in the events that he is able to attend. So we'll see how that goes. But still, even despite all that, finishing within top 50 and finishing at 39th, just want to give shout outs to Ben for pulling that off. And a friend of the program in JFlex finishing at 37th. Shout outs to JFlex.
Right.
Love to see it. Thank goodness for Nightclub, because all the players on the tri-state area being able to have Nightclub, being able to have online events where a lot of the players show up, and then New Jersey has lots of events, and Axis has a big part in that as well. Shout outs to the TO, not to be confused with the Penn State Axis. There's two of them, but the New Jersey Axis throwing a lot of these New Jersey events on, and the rest of the TOs out there. There's a lot of great events out here on the tri-state area. So I love seeing players like him and JFlux showing up on this list, and it's because we're able to kind of foster a good online presence and good IRL event presences as well.
Yeah.
And that pretty much finishes that off. Are there any other closing thoughts that you have for this list? Is there anybody that we wanted to talk about before we get going to the next thing?
The Area 51. I liked the Area 51. I like that we did that. Those all make sense. I think at that point it kind of gets to the thing at the bottom of the top 100 where you can kind of slot in a lot of people around that area, and it kind of makes sense. So there's probably like something we could do there to include more of a could have been ranked kind of a situation. But I think the list itself is very good. I think we did a good job with the videos with the time that we had, and it's we're only going to improve on the next one.
Oh, you will improve automatically. You know why? Because when you rank, when Eddie Mexico gets ranked, we're gonna have to use that Smash Factor clip where it's just like the double side B off the side of the stage.
Yeah,
one of my favorite Luigi clips ever. That was awesome. You automatically know what clip to use. So good. It was so good. So that's what I'm saying. When we get to the end of the year, by then we'll hopefully have 2 circuit finales, right? I wanted to call them both World Tour finales, and that's not true. It's Smash World Tour and then the North American Panda Cup. Excuse me. So when we get to the end of all of this, who do you want to see ranked as number 1, or who do you want to see barely make top 100? You could pick either or. You want to go for hometown hero, or is this where we talk about Mango?
Mango doesn't want to go to either circuit finale, but he's gonna go to one of them because they're back-to-back weekends. So you're gonna choose one of them.
And one is on his weekend. I think Smash World Tour is on his birthday weekend, which is like, ugh.
I think it was last year or something close to that.
I think it will be this year as well, if I recall correctly.
So with something like that, I kind of don't care. Frankly, he doesn't want to go to him. That's fine.
That's fine.
If he wants to bust route and not get top 8 or whatever events, that's fine. I think these events are for Jmook, Zane, and IBDW to take. That's the 3 that you're dealing with. And it's a good rotation to have. And then you have whatever Peach wants to beat all of them at once for no reason.
Or Slug.
Exactly. You gotta have the Ice Climbers in there. Yeah, I think we have a good pool of new players that are very, very good, and I think I like the 5 Gods a lot. But I don't want Hungrybox to break the Panda Cup finale stage, please and thank you. You know?
Yes, I absolutely understand that.
So I'm very excited for the new players that are more respectful of property.
Yes. Okay, so with the chair throw from Wave Dash, even if it's quote unquote no big deal, as it turns out, with the people who were owning the venue or whatever,
Sure.
I mean, you would throw somebody out and ban them if they threw a chair, they're local or whatever. Like, why does Hungrybox just get to get away with all of it?
I don't want to get too deep into this, but it's just like, come on, man, what are you doing? Like, I understand you get the views or whatever, and you get the Twitter clip, and you're on the local newspaper, but like, is it worth it? Is it actually worth it? The answer is yes.
Yes.
Obviously, but like, it's like, come on, man, what are you doing?
So I thought that the SmashCon seating would have possibly been updated, but it's not updated, and that makes sense to account for the Mango falling out of the bracket. Mango's not going to be going to SmashCon. So I'm just looking here at SmashCon because I can't help it. So let me go ahead and switch it over to and I want to predict a winner here. So we have players like Swift and Crudo, Polish, and Moki missing out on top 8. That would be wild, by the way. That's a wild list of players to miss out on top 8. So this is a pretty good bracket. And now IBDW and Zane, my IBDW and Mango not being here is going to hopefully allow players like Polish and or Moki and or Swift to be able to push it into this final bracket for top 8. But right now, the projected winner is IBDW, who will not be here, and all eyes are on Zayn to take the event, right? Because other than Laud and Axe, who have beaten Zayn before, who else is going to challenge Zayn? Of course, there's also Spark, and, you know, maybe this is None going to meet Zayn at some point in bracket? Will Zayn finally get bonded, even though I think Zayn has had a pretty healthy head-to-head record versus Zayn. It's not close. So there's not really an opportunity that's golden here for anybody but Zayn to take this bracket. But what's been interesting to me and also sad is how many times I have said on this podcast this year, JD, where I go, Zayn is the most logical choice to take the event. It makes the most sense for him to win. But then something weird happens, like losing to Left and Sheik, like losing to Slug, like losing to Laud. Not that losing to Laud prevented Zayn from losing. For the record, at Smash Summit, that was 13, got third place. So very good placing even still. But I am so nervous when I say I really want Zayn to win, and I think that he'll win this event. What are your thoughts on SmashCon 2022?
I like the idea that Zayn wins a lot. I think that, like, at the end of the day, that is the most logical conclusion. I think there is, like, once the seeding gets figured out, I think grand finals will either be like great, game 5, whatever, or Zayn's just gonna stomp. I don't really know what kind of shape he's in right now, but I know after some of the losses that he had, he was super disappointed and like wanted to grind more. I haven't been paying attention to that maybe as much as I should. But I know that he's gonna like want to win really badly, and like that's, I think, still pretty close to where he lives, so it's not gonna be like a giant travel.
Yes.
And so that's also a big factor of it, is that he does not have to travel a lot, and so he's gonna be pretty rested, pretty good. He's not gonna have to try super hard to like get that energy back up. It's just does he like have it again like he did at Genesis, where he can just stomp?
Exactly. And like, to your point, Pound is not in Zayn's backyard, but is, you know, an hour or two away. And despite the fact that it was back to back from Genesis, I imagine Zayn went home that week, as compared to having to either like, do I stay in hotels? Do I go home and then travel cross coast again? Like am I really gonna do all this work? And so this is, and also Zayn has been able to sort of like do the grinding in the background after some rest and relaxation type stuff. So I picture it as clearing his mind and being able to play fresh, as compared to, I don't want to say playing like, you know, like a dulled Axe or something. And when I say Axe, I'm talking about the object, not about the player. So who here would potentially challenge him? It's really just Laud, in my opinion. So if you don't play Laud, if you avoid Laud in the bracket, or however that goes, it all depends on how everything goes down, then I think Zayn is the obvious choice and will take the event. But I also like the idea of Laud winning the event. My favorite dark horse pick is actually Moki to win the whole thing, because that would be, in my mind, the greatest timeline on Twitter afterwards. I think it would also be really funny if None won. That would be a great Twitter timeline. Another great Twitter timeline would be B-Bats, because everybody in New Jersey loves Beast Bats. So that would be hilarious also. But I don't think that's going to happen. So my favorite dark horse is Moki, actually, to take the whole thing. It's just that Moki hasn't been able to put it all together as of now for of an event this size. But we all know how sick Moki is with it. So to put it all together, it would be a top 8 highlight reel that we would watch for years to come, if that were to happen. Any other dark horse picks that you like for this event, just to like randomly win and produce the greatest Twitter timeline afterwards ever?
What's like, I haven't checked the seating yet, actually. I'm checking the seating.
Poor Ginger. I mean, Ginger is supposed to finish top 8, and I'm barely talking about Ginger. Also, a shout outs to Waiting for Game, one of my favorite podcasts to listen to, not even because it's related to Melee, but because I like its stream runner so much. And also I also like Wheat and Edwin as well. But you get it. Ginger it's hard to talk about Ginger sometimes, because you expect Ginger to do well, and that's about it. I feel so bad. He's like we expect him to do well, kind of like in the same way we expect Zane to do well. But we don't expect Ginger to win. We just expect Ginger to finish top 8 and bust her out somewhere down there in loser's bracket. Poor Ginger.
Checking out top 64 right now. Yeah, I like the idea of someone like Null going super far, or like Chem. Some of those foxes that can just like make an upset.
Yeah,
I'm really excited about that. I do like the idea that Ginger like finally like after low tide like gets one, but I don't know. It's really tough.
Yeah, because you can put it together for something like Function 2, because I am like 95% sure Ginger won Function 2, because I keep thinking somebody else did that.
He beat Moki.
Right, because Moki finished second at that event. Right, there we go. Just checking the player card on the Feature Stats website. Now going back to the bracket page for SmashCon. Ginger being able to put everything together, in my mind, requires getting past whoever he allegedly loses to. But if he loses to IBDW or Mango in the bracket now, which is not the case, he's seeded to play Hungrybox to make winner side top 8. Ginger has beaten Hungrybox plenty of times, just not in person. That's...
Yeah. That's the whole thing. And then he gets the crowd power up, and it's like, what is Ginger going to do?
Yeah, that's and there's gonna be so many Ultimate kids. There were a lot of Ultimate kids at Pound cheering for Hungrybox, and I imagine it was the same way at Wave Dash. And there's gonna be so many Ultimate people at SmashCon.
Yeah.
And by the way, here's an interesting part about Hungrybox. Hungrybox has never won a SmashCon event before, and I know he takes great pride in winning every single series. You know, eventually taking a Big House, taking an Evo, taking a Genesis. Going down the list, Summit, so on, no SmashCon ever. And one of the most down bad clips that you'll ever see of Hungrybox is after he lost to Leffen at SmashCon 2019. He is super down bad because he loves the idea of winning every single tournament series that Smash has to offer. So that alone, I mean, after winning Wave Dash from losers, it was so heartbreaking, by the way. But after winning Wave Dash and playing Multiverses all week, which made me mad. I don't normally get mad when Hungrybox gets asked on stream, how much Melee have you been practicing? Because I know the answer. He hasn't been practicing Melee.
Yeah.
But I got annoyed specifically because, he wasn't even playing Ultimate, where it's like, you know, it's still Smash. This time it was Multiverses all week and didn't practice Melee at all. I was just like, dang it. I really wanted J-Book to win, and now I have to hear this. It's really unfortunate. But if Hungrybox wins this event at SmashCon, it makes sense to me, not just because his path to winners finals is basically just get past Zane and you're good. Yeah. It's just that Zane looks very unstoppable against Hungrybox. But, you know, every time, like I said to you before, it's like, of course Zane's going to beat Slug. It's just Ices. Who cares? But then it happens and you go, okay, first of all, sick. Good for Slug. But, poor Zane. That kind of thing. Is this finally the event where Hungrybox breaks that big losing streak? It's like 13 or 14 sets in a row now that Hungrybox has lost. That to me would be, of course, typical. This is like the perfect archetype of Zane performance, where it's like you had one job, Zane. Or if you're looking at Hungrybox, it's like Hungrybox always finds a way to get past of whatever is in his way. It's like watching the orbital path of a planet crashing into something. You know it's going to eventually happen, and then it happens, and it's like that still doesn't make you feel super great about it afterwards. So if Hungrybox takes this event over Zane and finally wins a SmashCon and pops off so hard that the venue explodes, all these pop-off scenarios on Twitter were very funny. My favorite one was something to the effect of levitating and like firing lasers into the crowd a la Homelander. You know, all those kind of tweets. They were all pretty good.
I really like the idea of so there is we could realistically we could have another loud HBox set that's half an hour long, and then have to go through another Zane HBox set, and like that might be a nail biter. I like Zane HBox sets like a whole lot. But we could also just like see another Genesis 7 where he just wins. And it's like Zane beat HBox. There it is.
There it is. And that was game 5,
yeah.
by the way.
Yeah.
That was game 5. That was
So,
close.
I really like Zane HBox nail biters. I just don't think it's that likely, but I do see I foresee another lot HBox that's half an hour long.
It's got to be at least 30 minutes long. Give me a 45-minute lot of Hungrybox set. Like, you know, like they'll take 2 minutes in between each game to like recover. You know, and everybody will be like, now what? And the camera person is like,
he's gonna take off his glasses, look at the crowd.
Like,
you know,
I can't pan over the crowd for 2 minutes straight. Like, I can't do this. The commentators are like, how many times can I get away with mentioning how long this set is going to be? How many times can I get away with saying that? It's going to be, it would be really fun to see that again. I do enjoy all kinds of Melee. I think the only kind of Melee I don't enjoy is like is literally just bananas. And was it, I don't want to say Dawson, it was Michael, excuse me, where they just refused to move at all. That was the Melee I didn't like seeing. But these really long Puff Ditto sets or Puff versus Peach sets, or you could say that the JMook versus Hungrybox game 10 at Wave Dash, that took a good long while, because it's not a Spacey versus a Floaty or Spacey versus Spacey. It took a while, but I was on the edge of my seat the whole time and super invested in it, and that's because I love Melee so much and I wanted JMook to win so badly, so I was super down bad afterwards as well. But all that to say, if we see Lot HBox, some of you may be disappointed in that and may not want to watch the stream, but I would say just try to pretend you're playing the game. It's hard to do that with watching somebody like Moki, because Moki makes his decisions so quickly, you can't keep up with him. But if you pretend that you're playing as Lod or playing as Hungrybox, you can kind of put yourself into the seat a little bit more, and it's a really fun perspective to take.
Yeah, and it's like every time that Lod pulls a turnip, you're like, what's gonna happen here? What can he do here?
Yes.
Oh no. And like, yeah, like you put yourself in the seat and you're like, every interaction you're at the edge of your seat, because it's just like, what is going to happen here? You can look at the sort of like the tree, like branch of events, and be like, this turnip could mean like I hit him, I stop him from moving, I grab him, and then whatever happens. And it's like, you got to be scared of that on both sides.
And the float canceled up airs that Lod has on deck. It had a Twitter clip. I think it was either against an unranked Puff or just training mode. Uncle Punch did 3 in a row against a Puff. And I go, that's not supposed to be humanly possible. Lod, you're so good. And okay, to be clear, Lod is also not playing a ton of Melee going into this. So we might get Smash World Tour Lod. Smash World Tour Lod last year did not do super great in the finals. And that was because he didn't really play much Melee leading into that, but then, you know, warmed up in 2022, finished top 8 at Genesis 8, and so on and so on. So we might see Smash World Tour Lod instead of finishing top 8 Lod, and that would be sad, but that's the exciting part. We shall see. As for the rest of the year, I was asking you earlier about player finishing number 1 for the year, or people trying to make top 100 right now who have a chance to do it, to sneak into the 90s, that kind of thing by the end of the year. I was thinking about number 1 for myself and thinking about whether or not somebody like Mango could come in and take it back. That just involves him, A, going to a tournament, B, winning tournaments. So likely not. But I think about those other players that are pushing it, where someone like Plup or Leffen, realistically, if they win 2 or 3 events, are pushing for number 1 very comfortably versus Zane and IBDW. And then for IBDW and Zane, they have the easiest path because they're already up there. But I think that the pool of players to potentially finish at number 1 is large enough that it's not just simply 1 or 2 like it is in some years past, where it's like Hungrybox Armada. Okay, well, who wins more events by the end of the year? And that's basically it. In this instance, we do have 2 clear favorites for that, but with IBDW's hand injury, that opens up the door enough that I think players like JMook, Leffen, Hungrybox, and Plup and Amsa have a reasonable opportunity that's in front of them to put it together for a couple events, place first, and you will have the Melee Stats people and the rest of the ballot voters going, these results are so hard to like determine who's actually the number one player. No, why can't there be a clear-cut number one favorite? But parity in Melee, I've been really enjoying it. To the people who enjoyed the Five Gods era where one of them won an event every time, that's fun and all, but we've had several different big event winners, especially if you count stuff like Fate and CEO, because then you have Plup and Amsa and Leffen and Zane and IBDW and Hungrybox, and hopefully soon to be even more players winning these quote-unquote big events.
Yeah.
That's what I'm really excited about. And hopefully at the big house, which I want to spend a little bit of time talking about because why not? What are you going to be doing at Big House? Can you say, are you allowed to say what your plans are?
So it's a Panda Cup key stop, which means it's the is it the last stop on the cup? I don't remember. I should know this.
It's one of the last stops, if not the last stop. Yeah.
So I'm gonna be doing Panda Cup stuff. We're gonna be doing interviews like we usually do. Gonna be doing content stuff. So I'm gonna be busy. But I should have like a good amount of time to do a bunch of stuff.
It's gonna be Contra's birthday over that weekend. I'm super excited.
Oh, nice.
I don't know if I'm even gonna be allowed to celebrate with Contra for the birthday bit specifically, but I'm just gonna say happy birthdays as many times to Contra as I can. Perhaps even make it a bit. I'm just considering all these things with Contra specifically, but I'm also considering, yes, I'm really excited to enter a big super major that I've never been to before, like the Big House. It's going to be sort of a primer for Genesis next year, which I am looking to attend. I did not attend Genesis 8 in April. I really want to go to Genesis 9. And so that would be super cool as well. This is so that it is sort of, it's like breaking the ice for me in a lot of different ways. You're good. All right. So shout outs to Waiting for Game and Edwin's fire alarm or smoke detector.
So it was a carbon monoxide alarm.
Carbon monoxide alarm. That was actually a real thing. Okay.
And so he was like, they went off and he's like, I need to be right back. And then he left for like 15 minutes. And I'm like, did Edwin just die? Because he left the OBS scene and he was gone. He's like actually gone. Didn't fill us in. And I'm like, Edwin's probably dead right now. But what he would want us to do is finish this podcast. So that's what we're going to do. And we finished the podcast and we're like, Edwin, no, because Edwin came back and then he was like, all right, I'm good. And then 15 minutes later, the alarm went off again. He left again. We finished the podcast. We texted him going, is everything all right? And he's like, yeah, go ahead, finish the podcast. Podcast has been done for like 10 minutes now. And we're like, Edwin, are you alive? And he's like, yeah, I'm fine. I think I'm good. And I'm like, I don't like the vagueness of that message. I sent him the episode recording. And he has not responded to me and also hasn't been active. But I think he talked about the ranking today, so it's fine.
Well, because of course, the rankings came out today for the top 10 specifically. But
that's right.
Ranking ultimately is fine. I'm ultimately fine with that. The last thing that I wanted to say about Big House, just because I was like, I'm trying to do stuff while I'm there as well. Like you said, you're doing official stuff, which is great. I'm sort of in charge of making that happen for BSM Pod, for the podcast. So I'm looking to maybe get a couple of interviews in and be able to take some videos, try to make some kind of a vlog thingy out of it. But ultimately, I think, like I said earlier, I get to see a big event, and I get to hopefully see somebody like Zane or Jmook take it. How wild would it be if Jmook's first big event ever was the Big House, that finishing first at? That'd be wild. But I'm looking forward to the second half of the year of Melee, where we get to see more super sick events. We get to see Riptide and also the Smash Summit, whatever that happens, because they have a new format now for voting where you're not going to be able to do the Dark Gen X route. No offense to Dark Gen X. He's a friend of the program, firstly, and secondly, a good player. I almost said very good, and I took it back. I have to stick with it. A very good player, and who's not going to finish first at Smash Summit. So we get to see how that turns out. I'm excited about that. Wizrobe competing at more events. Excited about that. Melee, I feel, is in a great place. Nobody's talking about Melee dying, so let me be the one to ask you, JD. Is Melee dying right now?
No, no. We're on like the downtrend, like a little bit, like kind of a little bit. Like we're not as big as Ultimate, but like we're never gonna be as big as Ultimate.
Yes.
The game sold 40 million copies. It's like the fact that we're still here and we can still sustain and people can still make this their livelihood is like fine. I'm very glad people aren't talking about Melee dying because it's super annoying. Because we all know, like in our hearts, that if you keep playing the game stays alive.
Yes.
Right? So just keep playing the video game and the game will stay alive. It's that easy.
Yes, it do be that way. As long as somebody, I think Mango said it best in the new documentary, as long as two people say, hey, I'm better than you, then the game lives. I think that's how
right.
it went. Yeah. But the reason why I was thinking about is Melee dying right now is not just specifically to be inflammatory. It was also because I have been seeing the numbers a little bit, and they aren't as high as what I was sort of expecting it to be, where, yes, it was really cool to have events like Smash Summit 11 last year hit, I think it was the 70,000-ish mark. It might have been pushing 80,000 during grand finals. I haven't seen a whole lot of 70s this year. I think that might just be because my Melee brain is so large-pilled that I expect every single weekend for it to push that number, and it's not a fair expectation where realistically are the top players competing for first place in that moment? Is there a Game 10 grand finals happening? And then it's not a Genesis and it's not a Big House or Summit. So it makes sense that all the other events, even for something cool like SmashCon or Shine or Riptide, are probably not going to be pushing the high, like the 70 to 100K mark. But does that mean anything bad for us? Is it just better that we are pretty consistent and we're able to have our top players show up for the most part to events, and that we're able to throw everything in general and not get completely derailed by COVID and be forced to go all online again? Is that good enough for us? That's the main question behind is Melee dying. It's just it's a hookier or better hook of a headline. I want there to be bigger numbers, better person sort of a thing, but I have to ultimately remind myself that not every weekend is Evo, even if it is in my mind sometimes that, oh, this is so cool. Mech and Bobby Big Balls competing for first at this online event that had 40 entrants. Why does this only have 100 viewers? Like, I shouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, viewership is doing fine. I'm not like worried about that at all. I'm slightly worried about like entrant numbers for individual tournaments, but it's like we're still in like the tail end of COVID, where it's like people are worried about testing positive before or after event, and attendees are super worried about that as well. And we're also in a jumble of events. Like top players don't even know what's happening for the rest of the year, right? And like top players are the ones that should know about this stuff, and so it's like you'd expect a regular spectator to have their gear planned out, and it's just like not how it is. I think going into next year, we're gonna have more steady events. We're gonna have a lot more things planned beforehand on every side. More events are gonna be more evened out. I think we're just gonna have like more understanding of the events that are happening through the year, which means like more players are gonna be able to know about them and attend them, and more attendees in general are gonna be able to go to them. So I think things are looking up in the next year. It's just like everything's just kind of confusing right now, and so players and spectators just kind of don't want to go to things.
There's a validity from my end, but I look around at the rest of the Melee people and I go, what are all you players doing at home, or that kind of thing. But it is truly not the fairest thing for me to expect somebody who is not Hungrybox to attend more events, because another reminder is that there are this few teeny tiny amount of full-time players in the Melee scene, but everybody else is holding out a job in some capacity and trying to stream, make that work, or do the whatever, find the whales who will just like secretly be like, airplane ticket, airplane ticket, airplane ticket,
Yeah.
and so on, and get you to places, get you to events. But it really is such a small number of people who can realistically travel to more events and compete. I guess that's why some people have the quote unquote right to be angry at players who could attend more events but don't, because even still, you get to a certain size of streaming like Mango, who you could say on the one hand is needing to attend more events, but from Mango's perspective, it's like, I don't make money doing it, so
Yeah. It's just not worth it.
I have to look out for that as well. I have family to feed and that kind of stuff, a life to live. So it is a whole jumble of, we could be at a better place, but the place that we feel, the place that we are now, I feel is still pretty good. And we're talking about more of a consistency for 2023, of there being more regularity with events and such. Do you think that means we can finally announce events that are happening, further out than 2 months of it actually happening? Because that's been a concern of mine and something that I've noticed. COVID does necessitate certain amount of conservativeness, but these people are still booking venues like 8 to 12 months in advance anyway, and then sitting on it until 2 months before and are like, all right, let's post on Twitter. That ought to drum up some attendees. I feel bad because you have to plan so many things that doing marketing at the end of it all is tough. I even forgot to promote my Nathan Sandwich episode. I totally forgot. I was like, oh, I'm a dummy. And it's just a podcast. Should have been easy. But for someone running a big event, I can't imagine you have a whole list of things to do, and marketing may not be the first concern. But does that mean that the Melee calendar that I try to find sometimes, and I find it, and then there's like a couple of weekends per month that say secret event, and I go, secret event? What secret event?
Yeah.
What's the point of a calendar? What's going on? What does it mean, secret event? And then the weekend comes and goes, and I go, what was the secret event? What was it? I wonder what it was. And I wonder for the rest of my life.
Yeah. We can hope that it'll be better. I think things are going to be less. I think things are going to be more certain going into next year, where TOs aren't going to have to worry as much. Hopefully, and then we can have a more consistent layout of events, less big events back to back to back across the country.
Yes.
I think events, people disagree with me on this. I think same events across the globe on the same weekend are fine. I think same events, I'm also crazy for this. I think same events, one event on the East Coast, one event on the West Coast on the same weekend is fine. I think there are enough top 50 players to facilitate that. I think a lot of people disagree with me with that, and I think that's fine. Because it doesn't happen a lot, because it really shouldn't. But I think what was it? It was
Smash Factor and Wave Dash.
Yes.
Yeah, because it was Wizro beating Meds at the same time as Wave Dash, was it not? Because Wave Dash...
No, it was Fate. Smash Factor and Fate were the same weekend.
Okay.
And Wave Dash was 1 or 2 after that.
Right, okay. Yep, you're right.
Yeah. But I think that's fine. Like, it's hard to keep up with streams, but at the end of the day, like, player-wise, I think that's okay.
It would be hard if they were broadcasted at the same time, but they were not broadcasted at the same time, which I thought was great. I was like, oh, I get to watch more Sick Melee after watching Sick Melee. This is sick. Yeah. I was super down with that.
Mm-hmm. And you'll always get the problem of, like, TOs and organizations, like, working together to make sure this all works out. But sometimes it just happens. Sometimes, like, conflicts do just happen. So it's not gonna, like, totally go away, but I do, like, expect going into next year with everything being more certain, everyone landing on their feet a little bit more. Everything's gonna be better than it is now.
Okay, that's fair. So this is a crazy, wild idea, but there could be a little bit, and I'm not the person to do this, so I have the easy job of saying people who are not me should just do this and make it happen, is that it would be cool if there was a little bit more of a beginning of the year, hey, this is all what's happening, because we're all communicating with each other behind the scenes. And yes, this is the calendar more or less for the entire year. I am a little sad that even unto this day, we don't have a singular place where the majority, I don't mean everyone, but let's say the vast majority being at least 85% of people who are active in the Melee community go to this one place, because it's not necessarily Twitter because of muting and blocking and algorithm. I follow people and I heart a lot of tweets, and dadgummit, I still miss tweets from people, and I get so mad because some of them are Twitter giveaways, or I want to be the first person to respond, because you read the first couple of responses and then it's white noise after that, right? So getting in early on responses is cool, and I refresh the page and I go, I better not miss something, and then 24 hours later I go, come on, I would have seen that. And so that's not perfect. And then Melee Online Discord, I'm not on there. I know there's like over 10,000, over 15,000 people on Melee Online, but like, and then it's not because of any one particular person or a bad experience, by the way, to the people who care about the Melee Online Discord. I just have never thought that's the place where I want to go for news. Never thought that in my life, so I don't go there.
No, that's fair.
And then Reddit obviously is an even worse version of Twitter. And Facebook is dead. So we need a website, or we need Smashboards. No, we don't. Smashboards is also dead. We just need something that is a call to action. But we can't do that at the same time, because if we could, we would have done that. So JD, where do we ultimately land? Do we continue to do this for years to come, where events are just sort of announced last minute, and then a TO comes out of Utah and says, hey, you scheduled over my super sick event that everybody was like, wow, that does look super sick. I love pools, literal swimming pools. But I remember that being one of the things that happened this year. That poor person from Utah, totally forget their tag and the tournament that was being run that weekend, but I remember it looking very sick. I just didn't go, obviously.
I think, well, yeah, that's still gonna happen. You're still gonna get conflicts, and you're still, I think, asking for by January of the year to have the entire year planned out is just not gonna happen. I think you can get I think the best we're gonna be able to get is by January, have the next 4 months planned out and be good with that. And then whatever else happens. That's probably what's gonna end up happening. If you run with something like that, I think I think this is a problem, like across the board. But I think what it's gonna end up being is a third party, like Dark Gen X or someone who goes like, I want to aggregate everything that's happening. I want weekly news, and I want to like be able to show these are the events. And I think it's gonna be like a single individual who is disconnected from all of it, because being an organization and putting that forward is like, it just not gonna work. So I think it'll be like another Turn Down for Wall or someone like that, or Dark Gen X, who's gonna come up and like be the third party for that. I don't know if like that's actually gonna happen, but that's the only way that it like happens for me, where people like go to a source to look for tournaments. Because like Smash GG has Start GG, rebrand, has discovery features, and you can look for tournaments based on size, based on location, based on timing. But that's its own separate window, and it's not very effective, and it doesn't give you a lot of information about the events. So I think it is just like a third party that's going to pop up at some point.
When's Melee is very underrated.
Yes. Oh, God. I've told Edwin so many times, just make all of your columns into videos, and he's like, that's a lot of work. And I'm like, I know it is, but they're great. And they just like sit there on meleestats.co. It like people read them, sure, but not as many people know about them as they could.
So you also sort of, if you start to do that, you also sort of have to commit to the TikTok bit of it as well. Dark Gen X is starting to do TikTok stuff, so maybe that's also. I know Ludwig does a lot for the Melee community, but Ludwig is sort of our magic key to everything. Let's just smear Ludwig all over this problem. What if somebody pops off enough like Ludwig, who stays in Melee just enough to be the source that people are like, I love how entertaining this person is, a la not me or not Melee Stats per se, even though I feel like both of us deserve more views. You get it? So if somebody super entertaining comes up who's hilarious and is on TikTok or whatever and also pops off on YouTube, if that person ends up being where people go to just to see Melee stuff, and then that person's also doing the responsible thing, responsible is a strong word, but saying these are the upcoming events that are happening, yeah, that theoretically could work. That sort of is like the most in the jigsaw puzzle shape that you could do, because like you said, it's hard to do anything else that we've already talked about. That could happen, but I
it
feel
just requires a lot of work.
It requires a lot of work.
Yeah, people just you can't because of time limitations, or you don't want to, or whatever. Like, I think Melee Stats is in a great place to like expand more. And I've told them this since I run the podcast. I get to sit down with Edwin every week and be like, "This is Edwin wins Melee. Make Monday Morning Martha YouTube video." And he goes, I'll get him one day. We'll start doing that.
There's so many patrons on there. Heck, I'll read an article out loud once in a while. You could have like rotating article readers and just post it on the YouTube channel or the archive channel.
Yeah.
Sorry, not the YouTube channel. Better not touch that. But the archives channel. My bad.
That's right.
Yeah, who wouldn't want to hear Pipsqueak read a When's Melee article? Oh my gosh, that would be... We gotta get Pipsqueak on that.
No, that would be pretty good. I like that idea.
No offense, but you post to Twitter a lot. You seem like you have enough time to potentially read an article out loud and submit that audio recording to somebody to edit afterwards. I don't know.
Yeah.
This is an idea. I just love how Pipsqueak sounds when he talks, and now I want to hear a When's Melee article written or read out loud by Pipsqueak. You know that LOD article, The Golden Pathway of Improvement, was read by that? Yeah. I have listened to that enough times now. It's just like, it's great. So we just need people who can read stuff well or sound super awesome while reading it. Sorry to hone in on Pipsqueak specifically. I would also love to hear Josh Man read one of those.
Yeah.
Yep. We could also have Zane read in the Zwan voice, maybe, or if
you
that's
just like funny accents.
If that's too much work for Zane, his like chill voice. I don't know how to even do it, but there's a certain cadence that Zane will get into when he's in like a happy mood that is super entertaining to hear him talk. I don't think that you get treated to that as much on stream, because he treats his streams as if he's, grinding Melee for real. And that's a very viable, perfectly fine way to do it. I just feel like when I saw his video with his dad recently, that was like chill Zane, and his voice is great. It's not just the fact that he has a great personality, he's very entertaining, and it was fun to see him with his dad. It's also that I feel like his voice could play well for that as well. Not busy at all though, just the number 1 player in the world. Rated an article by Melee Stats of When's Melee. I will be competing at SmashCon this weekend, so be sure to root for me. I'm not actually the number 1 seed for this. Very annoying, even though IBDW, like, that would be so funny to hear an anecdote like that during an article, and Edwin would get really mad. He would go, "We can't have that anecdote." But Edwin, it's Zane. You have to let the anecdote fly. No, I will not have it, or whatever. It'd be funny. I would love to be a fly on the wall for that specific conversation. All right, so Melee's not dying. Let's move on. Let's see. To get in the direction of closing up, let's see. I don't have a whole lot of other topics prepared, and I posted my Patreon question channel people very, very late in the game, and have gotten no responses, so that is totally 100% my fault. So sadly, I have no Patreon questions for you. But let me, in the spirit of we talked about Melee Stats enough, we're not going to do a touch and grass segment, but I do want to borrow 1 or 2 questions that never get asked on the actual recordings, such as, JD, what's your favorite color?
I got asked this recently. I think it's like some shade of blue. Like, I like a lot of blues. I like a lot of purples. Or recently I've been liking the a nice like sunset, like orange purple contrast. Those are really nice.
What is your favorite Hungry Box pop off? Shout outs to Anaconda.
I think Evo rolling around like a child was pretty good.
Yes.
Like a toddler on the ground.
That shot back to Armada just makes it even better.
It's a classic. I think I'm gonna have to go with that one. And it's an oldie but a goodie.
I mean, fucking fuck is my favorite.
That's also a classic, and that was gonna be my first guess. But that's also, I think I asked Pipsqueak at one point, and he was like, "That's basic. You can't do that." And I'm like, "Yeah."
I don't care how basic it is. It's so funny. It makes me laugh every time. Okay, let's see. One more useless-ish question, or the scraping the bottom of the barrel, if you will. Let's see. Ooh, how about this? Dear JDMH, when you work in Blender and it starts to get iffy with you, what is your little seance? What is your meditation? What is your technique, your voodoo magic in order to get Blender to start working properly again so that you can save progress and not lose 2 hours of work?
So I have autosave on every 3 minutes now, I think. So that helps a lot. Most of the time, if something like crashes immediately, it's because I don't have enough RAM, and so I just kind of lower the resolution by like 50 pixels on each side or whatever, like 100 pixels on each side. Or if stuff gets really iffy and like I click one thing and it crashes, my favorite is to copy the entire scene, make a new Blender scene, and then paste it and then save it, and it almost always works.
Interesting. Yeah, I like that. Okay, lastly, I wanted to point out the fact that on your @JDMH_ Twitter, you have 2022 stuff. What was the inspiration behind this? I want to say, like, sort of who's that person who made the David statue combined with a GameCube console? It kind of looks like
Justin Wharton.
Huh?
Justin Wharton was the guy who made that. I work with him. He's the merchandise coordinator at Panda.
Oh, that's very cool. So that was like a legitimate, like, actual collab thing, operation.
He made that original one like 5 years ago. He's been in the scene for so long. I'm surprised you don't know about him.
Yeah, well, see, this is why I podcast about Melee, because I need to hear these names. I need to hear people say them.
Yeah, and so he did that a while ago, and I liked it a lot, and he eventually wanted to commission me to do that for like a stream starting thing, and I was like, all right, and then eventually I just did it, because I just thought it was a cool thing to do. I did it like a year ago-ish, and then I did it again about however long ago, 3 months ago, and it turned out really nice, and I liked it a lot. That was I did some paint over on that. I was really proud of what I did. I cleaned it up, made it look really polished. So I like that a lot. That was wholly unoriginal.
Okay, not original. So what here in your thread of stuff is? Oh, well, yeah. You're closing out video for CEO. Look at this. Yeah. I'm looking at it. You got some nice shots in there. Oh, whoops.
Those are
playing. My bad.
Not my video. Well, so the actual shooting itself was Astro Pancake's Andrew, who is the videographer for Panda events. He shot on this beautiful Sony 4K camera. Got a bunch of stuff on Saturday, and I edited that down. I didn't actually make any 3D for that video besides the CEO logo, which is probably also in that thread.
Yes, indeed. The CEO logo at the very end of this video sort of swooshes into the shot. It's a nice swoosh.
And I editing that together was really fun. We didn't get enough footage of the Melee players specifically, and so I had to take from the stream and be a little creative with it. But at the end, where they start coming up, I had a lot of fun with that, and I knew it like lined up pretty well. Also being able to use the Melee intro.
Music, it's beautiful music.
It's great. It's fantastic. And it was like double the length that it was originally asked of me, but I'm like, I can't not use the Melee intro for the top 8 intro of a Nintendo licensed event. I just can't not do that.
No, you're exactly right. And then finally, I'm interested to hear like the concept of making an ocean out of a computer or from a computer. I mean, I know that Pixar has been doing this for a hot minute and other animation studios, but you freaking made an ocean. I'm just interested in hearing why that is a quote unquote morning warm up.
So Blender has had a modifier, which is basically like I have a plane, and then I can click a drop down, and it says ocean, and then I can click that, and it gives me an ocean shape. Um, and you can animate that from 0 to whatever number, and that's basically like the time number. And so you could put a keyframe down for that. And so like on frame 1 it'll be like 0, and then on frame 50 it'll be like 0.7 or whatever, and then it'll animate through time. It like looks like an ocean. It animates
Wow.
waves like it would. It's incredible. And so I used that. I made a water material, which just like make it clear, tint it blue a little bit. I put it in a box. Um, and then something new that just got updated, which is the reason I wanted to try it, was that like you could add foam and you could add spray. So the
Mm,
foam is the actual stuff that's on top of the surface that like is the white that you see whenever
right.
water go, and then the spray is the actual like bubbles that come out of the water. Um, and spray wasn't available. Like you couldn't add bubbles to the water like automatically. Um, but then the update came along and I found out you could. And I some voodoo magic that frankly I just copied and pasted a node set and put it in, and I was like, they know what they're doing. And I made it a bubble. And I added like 20,000 particles or something. Uh, and so getting that together took like 3 hours, like
Mm.
maybe like 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. I was done, done with the piece, and then the rest of the day was just rendering it out because I did 1440p, 21:9 aspect ratio, and each frame took like 4 minutes. And it looked really nice, and so I just let it rock for the rest of the day.
Wow, 4 minutes a frame. That's so many particles. 20,000. Oh,
But like if I did any less, it like didn't look very convincing, and the end product there like looked nice. But
yes.
like I wish I had a stronger computer to like make the bubbles smaller and actually make it a little more convincing. But I know more now than I did, which is good.
Yes.
And
And
that's what I ended up getting out of those warm-ups.
someday, I feel like there will be water in top ranking future, especially if a moist boy gets to the top of number one of Melee someday. That's your angle, that's your theme. Okay, I have another question that I wanted to ask you because I was thinking of this while you were talking about blendering. And do people say blendering, by the way?
No, not at all.
Well, guess
But it's
what? I do.
fun. I like it.
Okay, so
Yeah.
would you rather help out with animating the next Spider-Verse movie, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, or another Lego movie? Because I don't even know if Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is 3D technically, but
Yes, it is.
oh my gosh, let's go. Okay, so I don't know much about the technical aspect of this. I just know that Into the Spider-Verse was more than just models. They were doing
Yeah.
some kind of voodoo magic with like how the shot sort of was working with all the little
Mhm.
like comic book-ing aspects of it. And then Lego movie, obviously you're trying to make it look like real Legos instead of just, how Legos were originally done, which is stop motion photography.
I like both of those projects. I know a lot about both of those projects actually. Those are incredible asks. The lighting artist on Lego Batman made like a whole booklet document on like fundamentals of like colors in CG and like lighting and stuff like that. So I learned a lot from him. And then Spider-Verse was just like an anomaly. It was like an incredible project. I don't want to work on either of those. I like watching them. I would not want to work on one of those. Those scare me. Being in a giant studio like that with insane deadlines. I do not want to be there. I do. I like what both of those teams put together, and I like learning from them. I do not want to work on either of them. I do. I've taken a lot of inspiration from like Arcane and Into the Spider-Verse, like that mix of 2D, 3D style. And I think there's like a lot more still that can be done with it. And at the end of the day, it's like faster to render than whatever Pixar's coming out with, right?
Yeah.
Like you'll just like at the end of the day for more prep in the back end and like pre-production stages, you'll end up with like faster render times at the end. Individual frames will render faster because they're just less complex. And so I like that kind of style. I've been learning a lot from it.
That's interesting. When I saw Toy Story 4 for the first time, I couldn't believe it, especially the rain in the start of the movie.
It's gorgeous.
Yeah.
It's just beautiful, but it takes forever.
Yeah. It looked insane. I thought to myself, I imagine doing that with just like an out of the box laptop that's supposed to be, just a normal average every day. It would take a year to render one frame of that.
Mm-hmm.
Or even you hear certain things like the Toy Story 2 project was almost completely deleted except for somebody taking it home on like a copy of it home to their house or whatever.
The story was that she was on maternity leave, and so she wanted to work from home, and then she had the entire backup of the movie, which is insane.
Well, are there any other stories like that are less known, or is that pretty much the only one?
I don't actually know. I don't look too deep into that, but I do know that story because that one's crazy.
Right, yeah, it stands out. Somebody was telling me at some point that like, okay, how about this? There are limitations to what you can put out to the world, right? Where you could have something so incredibly dense and it looks amazing. And you're like, I get to do this on my cutting edge technology that I'm working with right here. 8K, whatever, blah, 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 a bajillion megapixels, this, that, and the third, all the technical terms. But then I know that there are people who are watching this at 360p on a mobile phone that is not even a 4K screen. So like, in other words, there's limitations to what you can do right there at the spot that could even crash your big setup that that if it even, like, it's not even like a game. Like it could just be even like a movie and it could overwhelm whatever it goes to next. Would you ever want to just see how far you could push something very specifically that only works on what you have in front of you? Have you ever been tempted to try to do at least one frame or a little teeny video to see just how far you can go? Or is the ocean kind of thing about as far as you want to take something and see how complex it can get?
I haven't upgraded my PC in a while, so that's not every project now, but like the bigger projects, sure, I hit that every single time. I just have to optimize down and like get it so it uses like my computer is using like 15.7 out of the 16 gigs, or like my GPU is at like 98% usage. I with a lot of projects, I just had like they would immediately crash on me, and it's because I was just using too much memory. I was using too much video memory or something like that. My CPU wasn't good enough. And so it's always like paring it down very slightly until you find like the upper limits. And so I hit that on the all-time top 100 trailer. I hit that on the controller trailer. I hit that on I didn't hit it anywhere on the spring early 2022 PGR because I was very optimized about that. I feel very good about like where I've come and being able to like properly manage these projects. And I'm definitely gonna hit it with whatever project is next.
That's awesome.
Oh, I did hit it with some Panda Cup stuff. Yeah.
Awesome. I just love seeing. Well, okay, not that I do this a ton with this new setup, but it was just a joy to see. Wow, it only occupies 2-ish% to record and stream and Discord call. When as before, all that's 60 frames per second, right? But on the laptop that I borrowed from work, to do it at 20 frames a second and a Discord call and screen and stuff, it would be like 40, 50, 70% CPU usage.
Yeah.
The worst. So upgrading technology, super, super fun. Somebody was like getting on you about not having your maximum RAM. Like 32 is like usually the traditional maximum. You'll get there. I have another question for. Oh no, go ahead. You had a thought.
So what happened? I have a giant cooler. I have a giant Be Quiet cooler, and it's great, and it is very silent. But installing it, it covers those 2 slots of RAM. So if I wanted to install more RAM is not very expensive nowadays, and I do have the money to afford it. Yes. I could replace all the 16 gigs I have now and replace it with whatever higher speed. I just don't want to have to take my CPU cooler back off.
Yeah.
And put the RAM in and then reapply the paste and then have to put it back on and make sure everything's screwed in the right direction. And then make sure it's mounted the correct way. It's a pain. It's just a massive pain. And so when I need to upgrade or when I can buy another cooler and spend like a week, not a week, it's like a day and a half of just like putting that all back together. I will, but that's just not right now.
I didn't even think. I was like, oh, this is probably like a couple of hour long project. A whole week could potentially be spent getting all this stuff moved around. JD, what are you doing in that computer?
But I do complain about that a lot. It does take like a whole day though. I lose a whole day, and that's like pretty important.
No, obviously
When
you have deadlines, like you said, and
yeah,
I mean, Tish is doing his job when he's like, JD, you need my stuff.
Exactly.
Yep. Okay. I wanted to ask you about the doing work for the esports, getting into esports. You got to do the things. You have to sort of generate activity into more activity. But you can be more specific. I'm interested, especially from the perspective of someone who would say, I don't have that pay me resume. It's more of like doing free work resume. Like, how do you chain free work into paid work?
So what ended up happening with me was I did like 5 days of Melee, and a bunch of local stuff, and a couple of stuff for Wall. It starts like eventually you kind of know. For me, it was like I knew my work was good enough that I could ask for some kind of payment. And like in the Melee scene, you're not gonna have like a lot of money to throw around, and so
Right.
it'll be like $50, $50, $60, $70 for something that's worth like 500. But it's just like how it goes. Um, so it kind of starts as no pay, and then it starts as pay me. Then it's like pay me a little bit because that's what you can afford, and then it starts to rack up from there. I don't think it's a 0 to like 100 kind of thing. I think it's like a 0, and then you start asking for just like a tiny bit, like whatever they can afford. But this is when I was super young. Still am, but you know,
I was about to
when I
correct
was
you and
way
say that
younger.
you are younger than me still.
Yeah, but it started out as like uh, I don't pay me for this, whatever, and to pay me a little bit into like I'm starting to get like if you want my time, I would have to ask for a lot of money.
Yeah.
And so it's very gradual. You can kind of like um judge your work against someone else's, which is like not people tell you to not do that, but it's like you need to get a sense of where you're at and how much you ask for payment wise. And you're gonna like ask people around you like what did you charge for whatever project. Sometimes they'll tell you, sometimes they won't, but that's just how it goes. Um, but yeah, it's mostly just like valuing your work and being like, I know that I can whatever project I get asked to do, I can deliver on it. And then the money fee that comes along with knowing that you can deliver on it. That goes with video or whatever else.
And lastly, if you could do something that was a little bit more of a bigger project and you sort of were the creative director on it and you could do it about Melee or you could do it about something else, if you would be interested in branching out to a different kind of either game, community, or subject matter, if you had sort of that, I don't want to say Hollywood money, but let's say independent movie money, maybe like a nice $1 million budget to do something.
Yeah.
What would be, give me a couple of ideas, something that you've thought of before.
So what Riot does every year for the World Championships is they make like a cinematic. They may make like a music video. It's like 3 minutes long. They spend the entire year producing it. And it features characters from the game and players that are guests. They have to guess who's going to be in the tournament that year before going in. And they're massive, massive, massive projects. And they use player likeness, and they're animated, and they're fantastic. They're gorgeous. I would love to do one of those. Nobody has the money, nobody has the time. And I've been trying to do it for a couple of years now. It just doesn't work out, and that's fine with me. Maybe one day. That's my main thing in terms of like Smash and Melee stuff. In terms of non Melee stuff, I would like to do stuff for like Rivals 2 or like Multiverses, any of those platform fighters that are really big right now.
Yep.
I'd like to be able to like give them some polished stuff, be able to work with their assets. Specifically Rivals 2. I would love to work on that game, but it'll be a while before it's out, and so like maybe the lines will cross sometime.
Well, you'll be able to show them a couple of things that you've probably done with Multiverses by the time that happens. Multiverses will pop off for a little while for sure.
And it's kind of like, I know, I've said this a while. I think I said this privately to a bunch of people, and it's like, if everything crashes and burns, or like if I want to get out or whatever,
Yes.
whatever like situation arises with me not being in Smash anymore, I would rather just like go to a different platform fighter and like work on esports for that platform fighter. And like before it was like Rivals 2 or whatever else, but now it's like Multiverses and Nickelodeon. I have like a lot of options if I would want to do that.
Hmm.
I'm very happy where I'm at right now. I think there's a lot that can still be done, but it's like those other platform fighters are pretty enticing because they have like they have brand new IPs with a bunch of cool characters and a scene of their own, and they're all very cool. Uh, so
Absolutely.
doing stuff with those would be cool.
And I'm glad there are people like you who are willing to do it. People who will make ultimate content or multiverses or NASB content, because I'm just going to be stuck in Melee for as long as I'm doing this. And to be fair, I'm not supporting my family on it. So that's,
Sure.
obviously my decision. I'm glad that we are fortunate. We are fortunate to still have you doing stuff within the Smash sphere and a little bit in Melee as well. JD, I'm very happy that that is still the case. But following you for the past year plus or so, I've just seen the work that you do is awesome. I really wanted you to animate my intro, but I caught you too late. You're just too big now. You are too far along in your growth. And I'll have to find another JD someday and ask them to do stuff before I can't afford them anymore. But as for you, I'm excited to see what you continue to do with Panda, and excited to see what you continue to do afterwards in whatever capacity you get it. All of your future bright kind of statements I will make, because that's how I feel about you. So JD, to get you in the direction of shilling and also shout outs, all that kind of stuff, please, by all means, tell the people where they can find you and tell the people what they need to know before we get going for the night.
Yeah, Twitter's on the screen, at JDMH underscore. I do follow Panda Cup, and you already follow Panda Global because it's just a giant Twitter. Not you, but like Royal you, like person watching this. I know they already do. But like watch more Panda Cup stuff because that's really cool, and I'm doing more stuff with it, and you're gonna want to see that. I'm also putting out a lot more art recently, putting out a lot more personal stuff. Uh, and so I want to do more of that. I got a fancy camera. I got a lot of pictures from Evo that I need to still sift through. That's gonna be fun. Yeah. So I'll have a lot more stuff soon. Also, like I want to do YouTube, but it's probably not happening. We'll see.
What about waiting? No, dang it. Waiting for game, a podcast that you are already producing. What about the state of Melee? I brought you on to talk about that, and I totally forgot to ask you about it.
So I have the setup. This is the setup. My camera's here. I have the lights here. Everything's here. The microphone is there. This is the setup that I would use, but I'm just too busy. Is where it's at. I like the idea of running a show and being like a creator with my face out there. I think it's like I think I could do it. It's just not at the moment.
Someday, but those 2 or 3 episodes were great, and
they were pretty good. I gotta say.
They were. Oh, and your hair was obviously different than it is now. It's just like I can very clearly picture the JD of that time versus how you are now, and there's maturity and growth, but it just it's fun. You can sort of look back at Mango's career and be the same way, where it's like you see a certain picture and you go, oh, that's Apex 2015 Mango, or that's Genesis 1 Mango. You get it. Are we going to see more different looks from you where I can look at you and I can go, oh, that's pre-Panda JD? I don't know. We'll see. I'm excited. And yes, for those who are interested in checking out the stuff that JD is doing, I will link the PG Stats Twitter and YouTube channel. I'll link your own Twitter, JD, so that they can see the ocean and other cool things that you're doing and be able to follow along on the journey, as JD is currently at, let's try to get a follower number here to be clear. We're trying to break 2,000 followers. You're a little over 100 away, so that would be super cool. Reciprocate, you get it. Let's spread the love to JD specifically. Let's keep the bigger numbers, better person. And then finally, for me, You get it. You already listened to a 2-hour long podcast. So, JD, thank you so much for joining me on Bottom of Smash Mountain. Don't go anywhere. You can say goodbye to the people, but I'm playing the outro and then we're doing the thumbnail. So, say goodbye to the people.
Bye, people. Appreciate it.